What I see mostly is the, as I said, the moment Python is replaced by English, coding is replaced by a few prompts, people are able to build that 70%
very
things
fast,
very fast with very little knowledge.
Yes.
And even the CEOs are getting confused that our knowledge is now world class.
Yes. What should a business leader think about his day-to-day IT-centric scenarios in line with AI?
Unfortunately, most of the times nowadays, because of whatever, what do they call it? FOMO, fear of missing out. First, this is starting in a different way. Let me first invest X million dollars in, ChatGPT, whatever, one of the products, any of them.
Yeah.
Now that I invested millions, let me figure out what to solve. Then let me figure out whether it will add any value. As a result, MIT says 95% are failing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our Coffee Conversation series. I'm pretty excited today inviting Dr. Murthy. He's actually been my professor when I was trying to learn AI, and I was super excited with the way his knowledge is about what AI is, especially the applied AI side, because he has this unique understanding of both the academia as well as the industry, because he's also a consultant to many enterprises. So welcome, Mr. Murthy. So why don't you first introduce yourself? I know you have a lot of things that you covered in your life, so love to hear what your intro is. Yeah.
So thanks, Jagan. Thanks for those kind words. And one warning: you should never ask a professor to introduce himself. That will be an essay question, not a multiple choice.
No, it's worth it.
But anyway, I did my bachelor's in India in NIT Trichy. In those days, they were called RECs. And from there, I went for my PhD to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. Carnegie Mellon is one of the places where AI was invented. But I didn't study AI there. I studied a different field called material science. And then in 97, 98, when I completed my PhD, I was fortunate to be invited by DRDO to work for them, and I had the opportunity to work on Dr. Abdul Kalam's pet project, Agni missile. It was an older version in 1997. I worked there for a couple of years. Was part of the team that built a very important component of Agni. Was awarded a gold medal for that. But in 2000, I changed my faith. I moved from atoms to bits. Okay, so became an entrepreneur and started with what in those days was called analytics. And then it changed the names. Then analytics became big data analytics, then data science, then deep learning, then Gen AI, and now Agentic AI. So I can tell you from a background perspective, I am one of the very few who practiced both rocket science and data science. And I can tell you data science is no rocket science. So that's about me.
Yeah, actually, every time you tell me about you working with Abdul Kalam ji, I think it just gives a little bit of a goosebump to me. So
thank you.
Thank you for coming down actually, right? Let's get started, right? Again, the purpose of this series that we do is to make sure that world is aware of a little bit of intricacies in practical implementations of AI, because I think there's a lot of theory on the YouTube and internet already. So we try bringing in the perspective that the speaker is having, both from his experience as well as his vision. So we'll try concentrating with that kind of examples per se, right?
Certainly.
Let's start with the evolution story, because I heard this when you were explaining us in the class. I definitely want all my audience to hear. Everybody thinks generative AI has happened after ChatGPT happened, right? It's not. Everybody thinks it's like that overnight thing. Some new technology has come, but I know there's a big, story
long
behind
history.
how it has, right? So if you have to explain it to a business leader, right, as to how he needs to see this evolution, what would you say?
Right. So the short answer is it is a 425-year-old history. But of that, 70 years is more important.
Right.
Okay, computers sort of became popular in 1950s, and 1956 is when the brightest minds of that era, Marvin Minsky, Herbert Simon, Robert McCarthy, so great people sat together and they said, hey, we have computers, we have statistics, we have these heuristics. What do we call this? Cybernetics was a name that was going in those days.
Okay.
But McCarthy suggested artificial intelligence. People hated that the least. It's not that they liked it, so they decided to stick with it.
Okay.
And 1956, hence the name AI was coined. But really interestingly, in 1956, in that conference, they said AI would take these kinds of shapes and forms. And it's fascinating to see that in that year, they more or less defined all types of AI that we do today.
Oh.
The entire math of Gen AI was developed by 1990, 1992.
Oh.
What we didn't have today then was the hardware, not the software. So of course, there is some, once you start practicing, you will build a few hacks. But the fundamental theories of Gen AI were developed by 1992. So I would say, some 30, 40 years of intense theoretical development. Then almost after that, the hardware started getting powerful where they could actually apply this in real world thing, learn a bit more, evolved into these 75 years. Broadly, yes, LLM Gen AI is only one part of AI. Okay, one small part of AI. The first generation was focused on converting human knowledge into a computer program. That was all they were doing. That's called symbolic AI. And they made great strides. The very first computer gaming program that I know is chess, Deep Blue.
Yeah.
Deep Blue was able to defeat Kasparov.
Yeah.
And that was only symbolic AI. They wrote human rules. Okay. Then came machine learning, where computers started generating the rules. Human just gave the data, gave the outcome, and computer looked at, oh, if this is the data, this is the outcome that I should get, what is the logic? It learned. That was machine learning. And Watson, I think, was the pinnacle of machine learning, where IBM, again, came up with a beautiful system that could understand and defeat humans in jeopardy. And then this deep learning, Geoffrey Hinton's deep learning started in 2012, where they said, you just dump whatever data you have. As long as you have an outcome, you don't even need to define the data. So in symbolic AI, I needed to define the data, I needed to define the logic. In machine learning, I needed to give the logic in symbolic AI, right? In machine learning, I needed to define the data and outcome. In deep learning, I didn't even need to define the data, only outcome. It figured out what data to use. And then an extension of deep learning is Gen AI. Okay? Much powerful, more powerful computer. So it evolved, solved different kinds of problems. It is just that until 2020, to do AI, people needed to be programmers. The latest Gen AI, people could start doing AI with English. That sort of brought down the entry barrier. People started using it, and many people started using it then. So they said, hey, this is AI. Rest all is some mathematics that people were doing. But underlying, we were doing the same thing, but we were using Python, as you know, a software language. So I think breaking the language barrier was the defining moment where people are assuming that is the start.
Wow, fantastic. So I know this is from an evolution of a technology point of view, but as a business leader, when they look at this evolution and look at where, let's say in an ideal world where I don't have any constraint on money and no politics in the enterprise and if safety is all in place, what should an ideal enterprise landscape look like, especially from an AI standpoint? What should a business leader think about his day-to-day IT-centric scenarios in line with AI? What would you think?
Okay, this is a fairly deep, nuanced question in the sense enterprise itself has multiple flavors. So what should a services enterprise think like? What should be a manufacturing, a research? Again, that is different.
Yeah.
In services, then what should IT services versus, So let's take one example.
Let's take a manufacturing or a, let's say, CPG or a FMCG kind of
Good. Okay. So let's take manufacturing. Okay. Yes. Irrespective of what I manufacture, as a leader, I have a few divisions that I need to worry about. One is my core manufacturing operations division. Yes. Then there is a quality division. Yes. Then there is a R&D division. Then there is a sales supply chain. Yes. Then there is a procurement. And then support, HR, finance, etc. So now the way I should look at it is AI can do two things. One, it can engineer processes. I'm already doing something. I can do it better. Okay, using AI. That is one thing. The second is, I am just not able to do this. Because of AI, I can do this. Let me take some examples of this. I am already doing it, and I can do it better with AI. Let's say I supply my goods, whatever I manufacture, to multiple countries. Now, at customs, I have a tariff. How do I guess the tariff of my product? Now, in a regular case, the tariff is a very complicated thing. It depends on bill of materials, depends on which country you are sending it to, from where it is originating, what is the purpose for which they are using it, what are all the stops it is taking, all this. Yeah. So normally what do? There is a tariff expert or a panel who will more or less guess what is the tariff. And there were some studies, human experts were able to get to around 80-82% accuracy, which is good in its own way. But if you think about it, if you are over guessing, you're paying extra. If you're under guessing, you're stuck at the warehouse. So both are not very good. 18% of the times, you're doing either way. So this company said, hey, let me look at all my past data and let a machine figure out the right pattern, where it takes bill of materials, where it is going, what is the purpose, etc., and let it guess the tariff. It turned out that it is 14% extra accurate, 96%. Right? So this is a classic case of where a human could do the job, but I am using machine to do it better. Okay. On the other hand, in the same manufacturing, when will my equipment fail or leak a poisonous gas? For that, what do I need to see? I have to collect the temperature, pressure, voltage, noise, input, output every minute. Now, if I have 100 machines, each machine 10 inputs every minute. That is 1000 inputs a minute. And in a day, 1440 minutes. That's, you can do the multiplication.
It's oil and gas problem.
Exactly. Soon it runs into billions and billions. This is something that you cannot do without machines. So there are some problems that humans can do and I'll do better. There are some problems I cannot do and I have to do it only using AI. Right? As a CEO, I should know in what cases I am improving the performance, in what cases I am re-engineering and starting something that I never did. And then as a CEO, I should have a clear idea of my pain versus gain. What is the revenue versus what is the pain of building it in both these lines? Okay. Obviously, I want to prioritize. If I ask my company to build AI, they will come up with 1000 problems. I should have a systematic process where I pick, hey, these are the 5 that make me the most money with least effort. Right? Most money is all. See, if one problem makes $100 million extra revenue, another problem makes $10 million extra revenue, which one to pick? An automatic choice appears to be 100 million. But if I added a caveat, the 100 million one takes 3 years, 10 million one takes 2 months. Obviously, I'll go for that. So it's a gain by pain. Okay. As a CEO, I should have a process where ideas get filtered by this gain by pain. That is
a great framework, right?
Gain by pain. Gain by pain. So now that I know this thing, the third thing that I really need to do as a leader is positioning AI. See, I have to ask myself, should I, and nowadays people are doing it, I don't need my L1 level. So you don't have to position AI as a monster towards humans, right? You should position it as a game that you both play together and win better. So humans should be empowered, not emaciated with your position. So as a leader, you have to position it correctly also.
In an empowering way.
In an empowering way. So how do I, number one, how do I look at my organization as re-engineering or completely revolutionizing with AI? What are re-engineering, what are revolutionizing? And amongst them, what is my priority? And how do I position them in a way people lovingly accept it and use it and are willing to change? If I get those 3 tick boxes done, as a leader, I have planned AI correctly for my company. Unfortunately, most of the times nowadays, because of whatever, what do they call it? FOMO, fear of missing out. First, this is starting in a different way. Let me first invest X million dollars in, ChatGPT, whatever, one of the products, any of them. Now that I invested millions, let me figure out what to solve. Then let me figure out whether it'll add any value. As a result, MIT says 95% are failing. No wonder it's failing, right?
It's written on the wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I was just going to ask you, what are the common misunderstandings that business leaders have? I think you answered but the 3-stage framework is really, really nice. Thank you for that. I know when we were hearing you and when we were talking to you, so many stories, especially right from the days of symbolic AI implementations to the latest Gen AI, Agentic AI implementation. There's some really nice stories you have. It definitely would be great, especially again keeping in mind those stories that would excite. Of course, there are stories that excite a developer, but then there are stories that excite a business leader per se. Maybe you can throw some of them, some
one
good
or two
successful
stories,
ones.
Success first I'll throw, then failure. So a couple of them that I'm particularly proud of. I will not name the customer.
I can understand.
Okay, so this one is one of the largest manufacturing companies in Europe. So I get a call one day that AI head is a friend of mine, and he said, Dr. Murthy, you need to jump in and help us. I said, about what? He said, look, my AI team of 10 members are entirely poached by my competitor. So before I hire a few people, I want you to just take the knowledge and just hold on the thing, and then we will set up a new team. I said, fine. And they were at that point, the problem they were working on was customer churn. And the team is highly qualified. It was led by a PhD from one of the top mathematics institutes in Europe, and a team of data scientists. So no question about it, they are all very qualified. And I started looking at it, and I realized the customer churn, business is asking for a couple of metrics. I'll not get into technology. You will know it, precision and recall. They were saying, I want 2% precision. I want 20% precision, 40% recall. These guys are at 2% precision, 5% recall. And 2 years they have been working. I was surprised. That gap is just mind-blowing. And during knowledge transfer, I asked the leader, she said, we are using best of the breed techniques, CAD boost, and correct processes. Nothing is wrong. So I asked this guy, hey, you know what? I know you just wanted me to do the knowledge transfer. Is it okay if I start poking around? See why she is unable to get there. He said, of course, do it. And then I realized, and believe it or not, anyone who practices machine learning will know what is test data and what is validation data. I just looked at the test and validation data, and I realized that statistically they are very dissimilar. And the missing values, the medians, the standard deviations just didn't match. A person of that caliber wouldn't have made that mistake if she was in a college. Definitely she wouldn't have made a mistake because she would get a 0 on 10 on the question. But that she made that mistake is how much of pressure she was working on. The problem is, on day one, if I say deliver in 3 months, it would be fine. But every time I give a project, I say in 15 days, you deliver it. I'm in a hurry. And so every time she was working in this 15-day timeline where she never had time to sit and 1 week to study the data discrepancies. believe it or not, I didn't change anything else. Just redefine test and validation so that they were the same. The performance went from 2 and 5 to 40 and 60. I mean, literally overnight. And they said, oh, Dr. Murthy did magic. I said, no, I just redefined the data. It was so good at the end, for me at least. They said, you decide who you want to hire, get us the team, build it for us. We are out. Okay, you figure it out. And this is a multi-billion-dollar AI company where my entire contribution was redefining test and validation data. So one thing I notice, machine learning normally in enterprise doesn't fail because people don't know how to use the state-of-the-art techniques. They're very good at it. Every company has good guys. It fails because these business definitions get messed up. People don't define the right performance metric, right data definitions, right governance. That is where failures happen. Okay, they don't spend enough time on understanding the data. That is another thing. This is another company, second success story. It's a company that sold games. So they normally give a dongle and you put it in your computer, start playing the games. And once you get addicted, you just keep downloading more and more games. And you pay for each game that you download. Because it's an electronic game, they were able to capture how long I was playing the game, what games are, everything is there. So they came and said, this is another company. They said, tell us more about, they wanted a specific problem, lifetime value of a customer. And they said the other company that is doing it is not giving enough accuracy, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. That problem was solved. But even before that was done, I just spent, because I had the luxury, I could spend a couple of weeks just probing the data. And in probing, one insight I got is people who play the same game in the first 2 months, there are two types of groups that I identified. People who play more than one game in the first month, people who play only one game in the first month, same game. I showed that people who play multiple games in the first month, actually, their average CLV in 3 years is 3x more than people who play a single game. It was a bar chart that I showed. No machine learning, just a visual. People who play single game, what is their thing? People who play multiple games. You should have seen the entire board and all the 20 sales guys sat there for that meeting. I was scared. I mean, what is there to show in a bar chart, But then they said, oh, this changes the game for us. Until now, we were giving only 3 games with the initial dongle. Now we'll get 20 games. We'll get them used to multiple games. If there is such a easy game, why are we missing it? So, where I really enjoyed the success is not where I used some complex machine learning formula. Really things like probing the data, asking the right questions, doing the, checking the statistics. Luckily for me, those mistakes are increasing nowadays because people are not giving even that 1 week time also to engineers. Tomorrow, we start with Python. We should start with a notebook. Even if it's AI, we should start with a notebook.
Believe me, I see it every day.
Exactly.
So, I totally, I can imagine a lot of escalations that we see, most of the times implementations that go haywire, always boil down to something that is not done basically right.
Exactly.
Nothing at the very complex level.
Absolutely. In fact,
1 degree difference, they say, you make that mistake and then you keep building on it. It keeps getting separated from the actual vision per se.
In fact, on the same note, one of the requests I get nowadays quite a bit is enhance our SDLC process. How do I make my software engineers more efficient? What I noticed is, in any SDLC, around 40% is coding, 60% is non-coding. This 40%, most of the people mastered it. They know how to wipe code, they know how to get the code. There's no juice to do. But how to use AI to write a better user story, how to use AI to estimate better, people don't know. So the non-coding part, if we actually focus using AI on that, train people on that, the performance goes up so much more.
There's a lot to gain there.
Lot to gain there.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And any setback story which you felt?
See, for me, I am I run it almost like whatever projects I do, at least 30-40% is research. In 30-40%, if I don't fail at least 50% of the times, I am not a candid researcher. Right? So I fail quite a bit. So let me see what is the best example that I can take. Well, there is one, again, always the failure is when you are trying to beat a unreasonable timeline and you don't do the fundamentals right. So there is this company that said we are in a hurry. We need to do sentiment analysis on a speech, telephone call. Now, we we want the answer in 2 weeks. We don't want to tag the data. Use ChatGPT. Do something with LLM. So obviously nowadays what you do, you prompt, you ask ChatGPT, you find out whether it's a poor sentiment or good sentiment. You translate, you do everything, and we did that. We just built a pipeline of prompts. We hit the ChatGPT, got back. In every way possible, the experiment failed. In every way possible, the solution. Then they asked me, what is the problem with that? I told them, ChatGPT at its core is built to predict the next token. Now, if I'm using it, if I'm forced to use it to classify, forecast, I'm asking it to do things that it has never been meant to be doing. So it fails. So you have to use the right tool at the right time. Nowadays, unfortunately, what is happening is people are not even saying, this is my problem, solve it. They are saying, this is my problem, solve it using agents. You don't even need an agent here. You need a machine learning algorithm. But you are forcing me. Unless there is an agent, my investment I can't justify. So put some LLMs up there. So failures nowadays, quite a few of them come because I am fitting an agent where I don't have to fit. Another area where I normally fail is when I take up the problem, the discussions I think is enough, and I quote something. But when I actually get into the problem, the complexity is something that I never ever thought about. Recently, I was working with one of the largest contact lens manufacturers, and they said, figure out defects on my lens. Okay, computer vision, you do it a lot, I know. And that's a simple solved problem, right? Run a convolution neural net, what is there? You are done. We agreed. And then when we went, what we realized that the images were taken after they were put in a plastic cover. Now that plastic cover has scratches on top of it. And the photo doesn't tell whether the scratch is on the cover or the lens. Oh, it took 3.5 months for us to just get the defect, decide whether the defect is on the cover or on the lens. Luckily, client stood with us, extended, but that could have been a disaster. Like that,
Absolutely. But I want to share a story. It's very similar to what you said. So recently, we were doing one project with a healthcare company. They are a unique company where they do services also, and then also manufacture. Without naming the company, they manufacture some, artificial prosthetics and stuff. So they had a problem of sales forecasting. I thought, okay, sales forecasting. So they came to us saying that we have to, as a publicly listed company, we need to forecast our revenue with, plus minus 3% thing. Otherwise, the market beats us hard. But our problem is every time we used machine learning models, it's way off, like 30%, 40% off. So they said, can you pick up? I said, yeah, why not? Business is business. So we went in. You wouldn't believe, and I have great credit to that customer actually. He came in with that problem. We were just analyzing the data because we couldn't find if there is any pattern at all. We kept on looking at it. In fact, we created a EDA document which was like around 150 slides showing, see, this doesn't have a pattern, this doesn't have a pattern. We ended up looking at it. So for like 2.5 months or 2 months approximately, there's no output. But to the credit of the customer, he understood and he stood by us. Interestingly, the way we have solved that problem is we saw that the data did not have a pattern, but the error had a pattern. So we did error compensation modeling and then we kind of gave them, and brought them to close to 90%.
Wonderful.
So yeah,
Exactly.
you're right. If the business leader doesn't see this differently than a typical software project,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
very high likely that he's going to get impatient and
exactly. To give me what you do in 15 days, 30 days, 40. No, you have to experiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that many people don't get it.
Absolutely. So fantastic. So super stories, sir.
Thank you.
I'll change here a bit because I really want to tap upon your research side of things also. One other thing, of course, everybody is talking about LLMs, but I did hear you saying that it's the small language models, it's the milli models that are going to make the significant impact into enterprise use cases, if I remember it right. I definitely want you, because I know you are doing active research on it also, especially again, you can get little technical, but I think you should keep the business leaders in mind. Sure. And what's beyond this LLMs, I wanted to explore with you, right? I know there's a lot of hype around, okay, what a large language model is, what a GPT is, all those big fights happening in the news. But then at the enterprise level, the choice of using a small language model, I know you talked about milli models. So what's this phenomena about? And just, if you could share your thoughts.
Sure. In fact, I was talking to a large company in the morning. Mm-hmm. See, let's look at the market system first. You have, and I'll keep it at the leader level, try to explain it as much as I can. This will take slightly longer because I have to get to the basics. The world of language models, you can look at it as three different types of language models we have. One is these big guys, GPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok, and a few others, who have these massive trillions of parameters LLMs that are on their data servers. You buy a monthly subscription. APIs, you hit them. And then the second one, in China is excelling in this. Interestingly, US is a dominant leader in the paid, managed LLMs. Open LLMs, which you can download the weights. China is 8 out of top 10, interestingly. Not just DeepSeek, everyone else also, they just pursue that market. But anyway, you have your DeepSeeks, you have your Gwens that you can download. These are again close to the big guys only. DeepSeek, if I'm right, around 700 billion. And Gwen is probably a bit more, like that. So that is the second layer. Now the third layer, using these, and in the open model, actually from US, the best is probably, or most known is Llama, Facebook's model. Now, these guys built a less powerful, smaller models. So, Llama original probably has around 300 billion parameters. Llama smaller versions have 8 billion, 7 billion. DeepSeek has a smaller version. Like that, the Falcon, they have multiple smaller models. So, the big models, big open source models, big managed models, smaller replicas of the big models. Now, these smaller replicas, the manufacturer themselves says, this doesn't have the performance of the original guy. This is a smaller version. 90% of the companies, when they are saying they are working with small language model, they are talking about this. I'm using a Llama 7 billion model. That is, that is obviously, by definition, it is a small language model. But essentially, as an enterprise, I do want to reduce my compute. I do want to have the model in my house, but I don't want it to be less performing, right? I don't want to compromise on performance. But 95% of the times, people, when they say a small language model, they are talking about taking a small language model that's in the market, or there are some standard techniques that you can apply on a 70 billion model to bring it to 7 billion model, the 7 billion model. So that's what. So that is what they're talking about. On the other hand, what I am really looking at, why do I want a small language, or why do I encourage a small language model, and at what point I encourage them? First part, there are certain things that you feel really uncomfortable if the data leaves your premises. Okay. So managed LLM, encrypted everything, but it's going to the LLM through your API and it's coming back. You may encrypt the path, but then it went there at some point. and you are worried. So if it's absolutely crucial to your enterprise, you don't want it to leave your data, you need a LLM at home. So data leak. Second thing is cost. Hey, Copilot is $20 per user per month. If I have 400 people, that is $100,000. And after that, I feel bad to hire anyone because I'm penalized, right? So it should be more friendly. Okay, I shouldn't be penalized because I am hiring more people. Or at least there should be some semblance of sanity. So just the cost of managing large things. And the third one, if I bring a big model in-house, my infrastructure, I have to, how many GPUs I have to buy? So if I engineer it well, probably I can distribute half the load to CPUs which I have lying around. So and the fourth and very important thing, these managed guys are trained on generic internet data. Can I actually build a model that is trained on my organization's data so that it is a lot more closer to, it contains my organization knowledge, my culture, and as they call it, my tribal knowledge, right? What I built over years. That really makes all the difference.
Slightly different from a RAG approach where you're still using the large model
to get the data. RAG is fine, but RAG is, for that particular question, it goes and searches for the answer, but it doesn't. It's not part of the model to do it that way. So, data leakage, engineering, and that specialization is what I need to bring. So, SLM is just a smaller version of the bigger guy. That by itself is not the right answer. Now, there has been excellent research in these areas in terms of fine tuning, in terms of distillation, and all that. And recently, DeepSeek showed, and this is a real differentiator, and I think it becomes popular, is reinforcement learning. Now, essentially, what I mean by reinforcement learning is fine tuning is take a bunch of questions and ask a human, collect their answers, train the LLM to give the same answer. Reinforcement learning, on the other hand, is ask the machine a question. I know what the human would have answered. Let the machine answer. And I will tell whether the answer is good or bad. Okay. There's a difference between these two. Fine line. Fine line. If I train a model on human question and human answer, the best that it can do is the human answer. Okay. If I train the model saying this answer is good, but you can get better. This answer is bad, you have to improve. It can actually give answers that I never thought about in my line. So it's almost like, the chess coach or the guy who coached Virat Kohli, Virat Kohli is better than him, right? How did that happen? Because he didn't tell for this shot you have to play like this. He said, this is a good shot, but improve it. Then Virat Kohli figured out how to end that creativity, right? That way, reinforcement learning can actually create an engine that doesn't mimic of course it mimics the style, but it sometimes learns even better. So if I take my smaller model and fine tune and RL it, I am building a true enterprise level guru who understands my culture and who is really the smartest in certain aspects. Employee who can help my physical real employees do much better. So combining all this, take a small model, fine tune it, RL it, reinforcement learn it, and then engineer it such that whatever has to go on CPU will go there, whatever goes on GPU will go there, is, I believe, the right way to practice AI.
I'll ask based on what I'm hearing from what leaders say, an intuitive question, right? The steps that you mentioned just now to be able to get really what my data-based intelligence is in the enterprise requires to do all these steps. But then there is a pace of innovation going on, right? Now I do all this. Do I have to do it again? That's one question that business leaders have. Second is, sometimes we overthink the importance of tribal knowledge too, right?
Absolutely.
So, maybe better I get the knowledge from what's trained universally.
Absolutely.
So these kind of
let's address that.
Yeah.
So I did experiments on this.
Yes.
So just with prompting, which is the common way to do it, you get to 70%. Prompting and general knowledge of the senior leaders assimilate, you get to 80-85%. Last mile of 15% is all this extra effort.
Okay.
Now, does every process in your company need everyone to work at 100%? No. Probably your sales, your procurement, etc., at 85% itself is fine, good enough. Get going. Your R&D, no, it should be 99%. So you have to now define. See, again, that's the whole discussion that we're having, right? As a leader, I have to know for this job, I have to get the topmost employee. For this, hey, let me get an average guy, they can do it. I do those decisions with people, right? Same way I have to do it with AI. Not all AI is same intellect. You know, I can decide to build a 160 IQ. I can decide to build a 120 IQ. I can decide to build a 140 IQ. I have to decide. I can't outsource that to ChatGPT. Right? So, as a leader, I have to now ask myself, hey, you know what? These are the low-hanging fruits. I told you upfront, something that I can do in 2 months with just prompting. I'll first implement that, start seeing the value. Something I need to go all the way. Yes, I'll take that 1.5 years, file 7 patents, protect my IP, get there. Yes, I have to do that.
It's not like one size fits all. You have to make sure that you prioritize.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In just with this experience of SLMs, because I'm quite excited. I read a lot about SLMs when these things came out, and I did feel that, you know, obviously everything starts like very big, but then the real use case lies with. So, in your experience, have people started implementing SLMs? Are they seeing the benefits? What if you have to draw that arc of time?
So, how people started? There was no need for people to do that because until now they are valued out of the roof. Everything is, you know, we are going through a honeymoon phase, right? I mean, so no need to work any harder than writing a few prompts. But now companies are seeing the dissatisfaction. See, the problem is thing that can do 70% right. The 30% inefficiency becomes glaring. Okay, so companies are now asking questions in their most critical areas where they are not able to handle even that inefficiency. Hey, how do I improve it further? And now
and also the costs are mopping up.
Exactly, costs are mopping up, right? You know, so I started getting inquiries. So by the way, I think I told you in the class also, I call it FARM LM, Focused Reasoning Milli Language Model. Focused for that specialization, reasoning for that ability to think with tribal knowledge. Milli is 100 the size. Now companies are asking, at least demonstrate that this is different from what you are, you know, what I have. Tell me in what way, how much is the cost advantage I will get, etc. See, the problem statement for the last 2 years for a CEO was, you invested $10 million, show me some use cases. So the ask is, tell me what I can do with LLM. You spend more, I don't care, but put an LLM and solve it. Now, there is more sanity. They are saying, hey, should I really need to spend that $1 million to solve this problem, or can you do it in $500,000 or 250,000? So it started. I wouldn't say it is percolated, but definitely
something to watch out for.
So people will have to figure out how to do the same thing at a lower cost.
Absolutely. And I think you touched upon this while you were initially explaining how business leaders need to look for. They have to have a framework of, you know, the gain with less pain, that 3-step framework that 4-step framework that you told. So that's one part to it, which is, okay, I need to identify the right use case for my AI. Second is, we touched upon the fail fast mechanism. Fail fast mechanism is easy said than done, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, especially with enterprises, everybody thinks they started a prototype, but nobody is willing to say the prototype is a failure. Because somebody's job is at stake because of that, etc. And you know, even in fact, I was hearing to a few other AI leaders where if you don't re-adopt your SDLC for AI, it is going to come back and hit back with you very strongly, right? So, I remember you speaking a lot about the concept of ideation, the concept of prototyping, and how, as a business leader, you need to look at that two phases to make it as a critical component for success. The 5% MIT report might have done this properly. I wanted you to just share your thoughts around, especially on the, there's one ideation phase that you spoke about, the prototyping, and how do you see prototyping, the assessment parameters for it, and stuff like that.
Definitely. So in your class, you probably saw me doing hours and hours talking about that. So what I personally, in my experience, what I have seen is ideation. Yes, normally in a company, if the company actually sets up a bottom up or a leadership level, hey, there is a ideation week, and then they come back with some 100 problems. From these 100, I do my prioritization and I picked 10 problems as my high gain, low pain problems. Now these 10. Then starts my prototyping. See, how do I build this? How should I build this? Now, particularly in India, this is a thing that I noticed in India. We are a services economy. We have been a services economy. So 90% of the times, client has a requirement and we are really good at fulfilling it. But here, client himself or herself is confused about what to do. So I have to communicate what I want to build very quickly and see what works, what doesn't work. So prototype for me is, in addition to the documentation, there is a working model that just tests one or two hypotheses I made, and I'm willing to fail there. And so the build time should not be any more than a week. Unless it involves human experiments, etc. If it is a software thing, I should clearly tell myself, prototype is to test ideas. This is not an MVP. It's not a minimum viable product. Minimum viable product means I'm selling it. User is ready to use it. Prototype is not for that. It is just to show this is what it is. Will it work or not? So that people will poke. They say this doesn't work or this has to be changed. That is the prototype. Now, so as a developer, that is the first priority parameter I use. What are the two hypotheses that this is testing? That's it. And how do I know it's not an MVP? The questions that I ask myself is, am I using the right tool for the right task? In a prototype, I don't. Prototype, I use even a human markup is good enough. I don't have to really code in AI. Does it have the right performance metrics? Okay. Does it have explainability? These are not needed for prototype. In fact, that's a good checklist for an MVP. Many people are now passing a prototype, asking an LLM to do it and calling that MVP. So then testing whether something is an MVP or not as an organization, the questions that I ask is, show me what tool you used for what job. The moment I see that for a forecast they used LLM, I step back and ask, why didn't you use an Arima or time series? Or what are the performance metrics? How do you know this answer is good? You can't say I liked it. Or I saw 3 of them and I compared. No, you have to have a metric. That which can't be measured is not science, not I said it. Lord Kelvin said that, right? So no performance metric, no go. Explainability for each stakeholder. Does it have the right kind of explainability? In a MVP, all those are needed. So prototype, what are the hypotheses? A MVP, performance metric, right tool for the right job, explainability, all those are the important things. Test them and know whether it's a prototype or a MVP.
No, I think that's a great way. I think the segregation between what you should expect out of a prototype and what should an MVP check in terms of is super important for the success of the project.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And probably we're entering into the last segment. Now, last week we saw, Nano Banana came. This week we are seeing Sora 2 came. Like yesterday Sora 2 came, and every day there is a innovation happening. Every innovation there is a hoopla because there are people sitting down to just say that this is great, this is great. But I am responsible for budgets. I am responsible for delivering enterprise value, whether it's top line or bottom line as a business leader, right? How do I, one, keep up at this pace, right? Or should I even? And if so, even if I'm keeping at my pace, how do I not get overwhelmed with it?
Right.
I think these two are, extremely important problems.
Right.
And especially with you also doing research along, what do you see, this,
Yeah.
what is your prescription, if
Sure.
I may say so,
Yeah.
for business leaders on this? Yeah.
Right. I will take a slightly broader thing here. I'll talk about positives and action points. Positive of this frantic pace, maddening pace, is the closest parallel that I can think of from my history of science is between 1910 and 1950. Quantum physics and theory of relativity grew like this. Every day there was a new thing. Every day they were breaking the atom, they were doing something, and it was brilliant. I mean, when I was doing my PhD, I always used to feel bad. I wish I was 50 years older. Then I would have been in that era, I would have done my PhD like this, because anything you do is a PhD. Just to give a small anecdote, there is a great physicist called de Broglie. Particle wave duality is his invention. So the story goes that this guy, after his undergrad, he had to write a term paper. And he's a lazy guy. I mean, he didn't work. The night before the exam, he got tensed. So he opened the book. He saw somewhere Planck said E is equal to h nu. I mean, this is physics thing. That's Planck's energy of a wave is some Planck's constant times frequency. And somewhere else, he saw Einstein's theory of relativity, E is equal to mc square. This guy has to write a term paper. E left-hand side is matching. So why not h nu is equal to mc square? Nu can be written as c by lambda. So he cancelled c and c, and he said h by lambda is equal to mc. Lambda is equal to h by mc. He wrote. I mean, it's like two-line thing. And he submitted the paper. His professor saw and he said, what is equating Planck's and Einstein? Should I give 0? But professors generally have a weak point for equations. When we see something, we can't give 0. So he asked his HOD. And HOD said, look, it looks like it deserves a 0. But anyway, there is a conference I am going to. There are some really brilliant people of the era there. I'll ask them if there is any sense, so you can pass the guy. Then he circulated that paper. And I believe, luckily for de Broglie, Einstein was in the conference. So Einstein saw it and said, oh my God, this guy should be given a PhD. He just figured out that the wave and particle can be combined with the same equation. Right? Yeah. So, what I'm saying is the AI is going at such a frantic and maddening pace. A small change in the parameter here or an added layer there can really make a big change. So this is a great time for research. That's what I tell you guys, right? DBA students. Yeah. Any small thing that you do can be a great innovation. So lesson for the company, any company that is... Okay, no problem. No problem. No problem. Okay, we are running. Yes. So, yes, the research is really rapid and fast. So a few things that the CEO should worry about. Number one, as I mentioned with that Einstein thing, research is now easier in AI. It's not that there are more genius now, they are doing more things. Because it's easy, there are more things happening. So there is no reason, no excuse for a CEO to not have a AI-driven research. And you don't need PhDs for this. A good problem and a few good engineers should be dedicated. Number one, to stay ahead, a research team is a must-have part of an AI. Second, I strongly recommend every company to establish, either internal or outside, a good committee of members who study all these technologies and really identify what will disrupt them. Not every technology will disrupt. So many things are happening. Is really in Sora, is Sora 2 really going to be that different from Sora 1? That you have to change everything? Maybe, maybe not. For your company, I mean. For my company, ChatGPT 5 is really not that much more better than 4.5. So I'm okay with it, right? So there should be a committee that not only should look at AI, but meta, quantum compute, look at 5 or 6 things that are really disrupting and see what changes there. This is a what you say, they should read all the recent papers and they should actually every quarter present to the board, these are the things that we should watch out. That is the second. And the third most important part here is the knowledge that most of the innovations are only slight changes to the fundamentals. Right? So, if you build your product, you must build a deep knowledge of the fundamentals in your teams. Invest in that. Innovations, they will then be able to handle, they will take their own path. What is happening now, what I see mostly is as I said, the moment Python is replaced by English, coding is replaced by a few prompts, people are able to build that 70%
Very
things
fast.
very fast with very little knowledge.
Yes.
And even the CEOs are getting confused that our knowledge is now world class.
Yes.
Right? That's a very important thing to know. Things have become utterly easy. To build a 70% good product is utterly easy now. So what you need to do is not to get it, compete with Gemini, but in your area, ensure that your engineers are really, really deep in what they do, and that requires some amount of probing and training. Get either external or internal help to do that. So having a good view forward committee that helps me what are disruptive, where I should be ready. Having a R&D team that is trying to do new things
or contextualizing the disruptions to your organization.
Trying to do, they should not be tasked with your day-to-day of, billability, etc. Just keep 4 or 5 people just to do new things so that you have your own accelerators tools. And then rest of the development team, don't let them be happy with the surface level knowledge. Know that 90% of what they are doing is prompting. So move them up. I'm sure, you being a techie are getting into that. But for many CEOs, that is not very obvious.
No, I think that is the need of the day. In fact, I can tell my personal transformation from the time I did not know the basics to the point where at least I know that there are these basics. So business leaders do not have a choice but to reskill them and their teams on the fundamentals per se.
At least to know enough that the other guy is not deep, but he's building something very shallow.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's great. I know, we touched upon many things, which includes the research side of things, the enterprise use case side of things, and I do know you have an active research going on, and you also do consult customers. You want to throw some light on what typically your
So I am focusing currently on 3 things, Jagan. My company TEK Frameworks. One, we do enterprise training, as you know, leaders and managers, advise
thank
them.
You for that.
Advise them. 2, I am very passionate about, as I said, the specialized language models. Okay, so that where they need that 90% performance, where I want to take regular techniques, domain knowledge, reinforcement. We build those small special language models. We call them farm LMs. That is my second area. That is my consulting. Now, the product that we are building, I'm particularly passionate about. I want to talk for 2-3 minutes about it. When I was talking to many people, there is a very interesting gap that I identified. With the advent of LLMs, people stopped reading well. Now, this is very counterintuitive. You expect them to read well, right? But this is actually, I was once in Oxford training a bunch of hedge fund managers. They asked me, you know what, I'm investing so much on my manager that he will read all the thing and make the right decision. I don't know. I think he's cutting and pasting or he's summarizing using LLMs and he's just going through the summary. Is there a way for me to ensure that they read better? And I was talking to one of the largest product company, IT product company yesterday. They said, our product managers are not reading competition material better. Everyone now dumps things in an LLM, get the summary and
thanks to notebook LLM.
Exactly. That 5,000 feet thing is what they look at. So the product that we are building is called SPAR LM. where what we are trying to do is help people with, this intelligently identifies what people could miss, and that is domain dependent, and pulls them out. And then to ensure that they will remember, it converts them into activities, questions, games, puzzles. So essentially, the problem that we are solving is we ensure that you understand what you are reading really well. And we also ensure you know how well you understand. It could be a sales guy going for a sales call, seeing, oh, I only understand 64% about this product. I need to prepare a bit more. Then they prepare a bit more. So we are solving that problem where we help people read and assimilate and act better in the age of AI. That's the product that we are building.
5 years back, in one large FMCG company, one of the world's largest, they were requesting us to build one feature for gamification. The idea was they built a beautiful intranet. Intranets used to be a big thing at that time, and there used to be a lot of information there. But the customer service just still is getting all kinds of questions that could have just been read coming through by reading 5 lines of what was put on intranet, right? So they were asking, how do you gamify and incentivize people to be able to make sure that they're able to read it? So it's
the difference is not information anymore. The difference is how well you understood the information. So that's what we are now getting
distillation.
To. Exactly.
Pun intended. But So I think thank you for your time. It was great talking to you. So
always a pleasure, Jagan.